The following podcast contains spoilers, adult language, and Rita. She used to cook people for the Legion, and now she makes trail mix, and boy, is it tasty. You're gonna have to try some.
I'm okay. Thank you, Rita.
Okie dokie.
This is a message from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. Due to the recent crisis, we ask that you remain in your homes. Do not attempt to communicate or interact with the creatures, even if they are people you know.
Lock your doors. Bar your windows. Evil is coming. It's time for Aim for the Head, a horror apocalypse entertainment podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Diana and Steve.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Aim for the Head podcast.
And I want some trail mix.
We are back discussing Fallout Season 2. This week we're going to be talking about episode number 6, The Other Player. Now remember, don't hate the player, hate the game. I think that's what the kids say these days. Not that I would know. I don't know anything about what the kids say these days.
No, I don't think the kids say that at all.
Oh, you're probably right. If I say that's what the kids say, then they're not saying anything even remotely close to that.
What I have learned is that when I find out something that I'm told the kids are saying, they have stopped saying it a long time by the time I hear about it. So,
yeah, I totally understand. So if you're new here, what we like to do before we discuss our top 5 points of the episode is we just do a quick, rapid fire how we felt about the episode. And Steve, you went first last week talking about episode 5, so it's my turn to go this week. So, Diana, how did you feel about episode 6? Well, let me tell you.
You know what?
Diana.
I think you should do this all in third person just to really sell it. So.
Really,
don't tell me what you think. Tell me what Diana thinks.
Well, let me tell you, Steve. Diana thinks that episode 6 was really good. I was noticing while I was sort of watching it the third time through that when I was sort of mining it for my little moments to include, that there was much less funny in this episode than there has been in times past. I mean, there might have been a handful of lines that made me chuckle, but not as much as in the past. So I feel like we're really sort of ramping up towards the obviously toward the season finale. So we're getting more serious. We're charging ahead towards the end of the season. We're still traveling. We're still, gaining more and more. I just want I want some resolution to some things.
Anything.
And some answers to other things. Anything.
Just pick one thing. The smoke monster. Because, something. Come on.
Yeah, which is funny that you say that because I'm in the middle. I'm about 10 episodes away from being finished. I'm doing a rewatch of Lost. And one of the things that and I've rewatched Lost before, but it really hit me this time, mostly because we're in the middle of Fallout and there is a lot of traveling happening with all of these different factions. I realized Lost is really all about, hey, we need to do X, Y, and Z, and we got to walk to the other side of the island to do it. Are you coming? No. And I'll tell you why. Because the island's not going to, every single thing, every action in Lost was all about, hey, we got to walk over here. Why? I can't tell you until we get there. And that's it. That's what the whole show was about. And don't get me wrong, I love Lost. I have lots of love for Lost. But I was watching that and realizing it. I've realized it a million times since I've started doing my rewatch. But I was like, is Fallout getting near there? Do they need to resolve something in the next episode? And it's not a complaint, I swear, but I feel like all of our people are journeying. The only people who are staying put are probably the people that are in the vaults because they stay put. But everybody who's outside the vault right now is on some type of physical journey, going from A to B. And there's constantly movement, there's constantly travel, and I'm dying for there to be some resolution to some of it. And I know you can't resolve all of it because you want to save something for, say, maybe next season. But we're getting to that point where I don't want to be mad at the season because I'm loving this season. I think it's really great. But I'd love some of the travel to be, sort of resolved, and that's all I gotta say about that. So yeah, still great episode. We're getting a little bit more serious, less funny stuff because we're getting towards the end of the season. I'm lots of great stuff. I'm dying to find out what's happening with Norm, so I'm disappointed they didn't include anything in this week. So hopefully next week. But loved all of the stuff that we saw this week. How about you? How did you feel about episode 6?
Yeah, I liked it probably as much as you did, but I have to disagree. I thought this episode was still very funny, but I mean it's all black gallows humor. I mean, the opening montage of Barb sitting there with all of these people going through their like normal business stuff, but it's all about the end of the world. I mean, that's hilarious. How can you not laugh at that when she's sitting there and they're talking about, well, this is a 5 megaton blast, but this is a 10. We think it looks bigger, but in actuality, it'll be multiple 5s, and we think that'll be too busy for the picture. And you're like, oh my God, you're talking about nuking Los Angeles, and then everybody that came in, whether it was Bud talking about we should like have like a special like route for our value customers to get to the vaults quicker. It's just that's just money on the table, and I mean everything that they did, I thought was just, again, how can you not just smile and laugh and just like roll your eyes like, are you kidding me? Which is what she is like desperately trying not to do as she's sitting there having to listen to all these people. And like the two people are like eating, like they catered lunch and they're like eating cheeseburgers and French fries. I mean, so I disagree. I think there was a lot of funny stuff in this episode. And the Thaddeus and Maximus scenes were great too. A lot. I like that those two are like now buddies again. I mean, I don't know if they were ever buddies before, but now they are. And I like that because I think the show is better with Thaddeus in it because he's just goofy and brings a little irreverence to this that we need. But yeah, I agree with you. That we didn't get any Norm. That was too bad. I wanted to get some resolution to that. I wanted Claudia to come in and smash the 800-year-old bottle of liquor against Ronnie's forehead there and save him. And find out what happened with that. But we, like you said, probably next week, right? And so pick one of the other storylines because we probably won't get that one next week, but we'll get more of Norm and what happened to him. But I think there was a lot of great stuff, and what this episode as well as last episode, what really impressed me about them is that in both episodes they took a character that we kind of had sort of broadly painted as a villain. And last week it was Robert House. And this week it was Barb, in that, we kind of were going into it going, yeah, they're this like literally like a black or white decision. Like they're the bad guy. Coop's a good guy. They're the bad guy. And totally forgetting all of the gray that exists in real life, right? And nothing is ever resolute. There's always nuance. There's always context. There's always all of those things that are going to shape and change your view and opinion on why you have to do things when you do them. And in both episodes, last week and this week, you get that like paradigm shift moment where you realize, wait, you know what? Barb's doing all this, but she like hates it and is like has no choice, right? She's being forced to do it, right? And I just thought that was really, really brilliant way for them to keep the show just new, and you never know what's going to happen, and things that you think are resolute and written in stone, maybe not so much. And so I really appreciated that. So I thought this was a really cool episode, and we're building up to the penultimate one next week, and as we all know from our Walking Dead days, that's usually where the plot gets thrown up in massive quantities.
Yes.
So I think that's what we're gearing up to, and you could kind of see it the way this episode ends, that all the threads, well, maybe not the Norm or the Vault thread, but the other threads, they're all coming together. Right, they're
Right.
all coming back
Mm-hmm.
together, and so there's going to be this massive cast reunion, at some point where we have everybody on the screen at the same time. So that should be fun, and so yeah, I'm really loving this season, and I thought this was a great episode.
Agreed. Agreed. So we're going to jump into our top moments in just a moment, but before we do that, we usually like to remind folks of what the description is of the episode that we all just watched together, and also cue you in on who the writers and directors of the episode were. So sit down and take a load off and put your feet up, because it's going to take a little bit for us to make it through the description first, and then the writer and director will be pretty quick, but make sure you put a little time aside.
Yeah.
So Steve, why don't you take it away?
Yeah,
no
yeah,
time
and if you want, I will give you like a 10 seconds for you like to run to the refrigerator and get like a fresh beverage or something, because this is a big one, people. This is gonna take a lot of time. You're really gonna have to pay attention.
Oh yeah.
All right, so this is, again, we're watching the Amazon Prime series Fallout. This is season 2, episode 6, entitled The Other Player, and the description that we have is I remember good people, and that is your episode description. So there you go.
It says so much while also saying so
See, I
little.
disagree. I just think it says so little. Although again, like you pointed out, this is an actual line of dialogue in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Maximus is the lucky winner. We should make this like some sort of drinking game, that before the episode starts, you have to guess which one of is it going to be main characters? If so, which one? Or you could just say secondary character is going to actually say the episode description, because I think this is the 3rd or 4th week in a row where they've done that. So so that is your episode description. And again, like you said, if that doesn't tell you exactly what happened in this one, I don't know what show you're watching. But let's move on to our writer and our director, which it is a new duo this week. So how about that?
How about
Pretty
that?
cool. So our writer is a gentleman named Dave Hill, and he is a co-executive producer of Fallout. So yet again, someone that is part of the team here, that
Right.
they just basically kind of doled out this season, going, you write this one and you write that one, and I'll write this one and she'll write that one, and so here we go. And this guy's name probably seems familiar to you, I would think, because the main thing that he has done, besides this show, he was a co-producer of an HBO show about the game with no dice. And he actually wrote 14 episodes of the Game of Thrones.
Wow,
I don't know what seasons or when they happened, but yeah, so 14. So that's a lot, I think.
It is.
And then he also wrote 3 episodes of another fantasy show called The Wheel of Time, which I don't know if you remember that one, based on a very, very popular book series. And so that's kind of his main thing. I mean, he clearly got to start in Game of Thrones and then was pulled over here. And so he's, like I said, he's a co-executive producer. So he's very high up in the food chain here. So that is your writer. And then our director is a gal named Lisa Joy. And Lisa Joy is a producer of Fallout. So not an executive, but just a more of a line producer. So, not quite as high up, not quite up in the penthouse looking down on everything, more ground level solving problems kind of a producer. Okay.
Gotcha.
And she, in terms of her directing stuff, she directed several episodes of a series called Reminiscence, which I don't know if you remember that one. I never watched it, but I do kind of vaguely remember when it was on about maybe 2-3 years ago. But her main credits that she has is she was one of the showrunners of the HBO series Westworld. So
Yes.
so that's probably where, if that name sounds familiar, that's where you would have seen her name pop up. And also, she was a co-producer of a series from, and this is an older series, maybe about 15 years ago, called Burn Notice. And
Oh God, I love Burn Notice.
yeah, it was a cool show, and I can't remember if that was on like USA or TBS or TNT or something. It was on one of those kind of like free
Yeah.
cable network series, and it ran for years and years and years. But anyway, so that's kind of where she got her start, and then she jumped up and she was involved with Westworld, and now she is a producer and a director on Fallout. So that is your writer and your director.
Okay, well, if you're a frequent listener, and maybe you didn't listen to last week, we're going to try out something new. We've done it for a week now, to try and cut down on our length of podcast, just a little bit, sort of keep us reined in a little bit more. And so we're just going to stick to our top 5 moments of the episode. And not in any sort of particular order. They may run in kind of chronological order because that's how I take my notes. But mostly just, not necessarily our personal number one, but just one of our points, 2 of our points, 3 of our points, whatever. So yeah. So let's dive right in. So, Steve, do you want to go first on your first point, or you want?
Oh no, you can go first because your first point happened before my first point. So.
Oh well, look at you being all chronological. So I just wanted to talk a few minutes about. It's a really. It's an important scene in the episode, and you pointed it out when you were talking about the humor of the episode. And it's true. It was a humorous sequence. It was humorous, but also, like, I felt like it was super dark. And you felt really bad for Barb the whole time. So the opening sequence with Barb, and she's basically seeing all of these pitches. Salespeople, different departments within, Vault Tech, we're not sure, but they're all making these little individual presentations. And they just get more and more and more ridiculous. From the marketing department saying that, the image of 1 megaton blast is just not enough for our marketing purposes, which was crazy. Mm-hmm. Then the water chip guy who says 30% of the water chips are definitely going to fail, but the good thing is we know which ones it is. And he says, so we get to choose who runs out of water. Any preferences? Holy shit. And then the guy that was talking about, and you said it was Bud. Was that Bud? That was talking about the 30-minute alert? Interesting.
Was Bud.
I didn't recognize him. I thought he was a little, apologies to the actor. I thought he was a little beefier in the face. That guy was skinnier. But maybe he was younger.
To be fair, the last time you saw Bud, he was a Roomba. So,
It's true. He was a brain on a Roomba. And I don't have a lot of memory of what he actually looks like, because we've been looking at him as a brain on a Roomba for
quite a while, yeah.
So anyway, so the presentation that he gave was, we've got this 30-minute alert system in place for knowing about and man, we should really think about offering a dedicated freeway lane for the premium customers. He literally used the thing, that's money we're leaving on the table.
Money on the table, baby. Yeah, yeah.
And it's funny to think about that portion, the part that, Bud was talking about, considering the reaction of that dude that Hank unfroze. And he was like, I'm premium. Yeah. I'm a super premium. Yeah. Why did you run free? You know what I mean? So that guy's indignation about, even though he was super premium, it didn't matter. Hank just like unfroze him and used him for his will. Mm-hmm. So they're going to get the money of these people, and they're going to do whatever they want with them. I don't think, and this is just a personal thing, based on how that guy was treated, I don't think there was much preference given to these like super elite people, over like the average human, you know what I mean? Like, other than stuff on the front end, maybe they got into the vault a little quicker, maybe their little sleeping chamber or whatever, maybe they were included in the whole, like, you get to sleep, and once everything is cleaned up on topside, we'll wake you up. Whereas, like, the average person, maybe they weren't offered something like that. Anyway, but still, the ridiculousness of all of this, and then the end piece, she's just sitting there, like, taking it all in. And then the end piece is meeting with, we will call him online. They're calling him, instead of it's Robert House's double is what comes up in the captioning, which I think is hilarious. But online, they're calling him Bobby Apartment instead of Robert House, which I think is hilarious. So Bobby Apartment is talking to Barb, and she thinks she's talking to Robert House, obviously. And so they're talking about as he calls it, the automated man, which is the piece on the back of the neck, which Hank is very interested in, and he was physically very interested in it to the point of leaning forward. And he was in that meeting, he was like the underling, and he was sort of embarrassing Barb a bit by his behavior. He was so taken by the idea of the automated man. But then it created this whole sequence where Barb is, telling him, well, you can do this wherever you want. You don't have to tell me about this. Just do it have this experiment happen in your vault. And he's like, you guys are paying me to do this. So come to find out that he's doing this automated man thing for Vault Tech. They're paying him to come up with this technology in exchange for him getting the cold fusion so he can use it for his project in Vegas, which we've heard through the grapevine that this is a defensive system that he was going to put together to keep Vegas safe, apparently. So she's confused, and he says, it's above your pay grade, probably. And then his final thing he says is, he's like, don't worry, you'll find out about it after the bombs fall. What? So this whole scene for poor Barb is all, like, it's funny for us, but the tragedy of it all is that she's so involved with all of this stuff, and everybody's treating it with such a cavalierness and such a making it's such a monetary thing for them. And it seems like it is just absolutely overwhelming for Barb. But just what a great scene overall. And it's a great way to sort of start the episode because, like you said, we're, shades of gray with Barb. We're supposed to think that she's this bad person, but then you see what she's been subjected to and you start to feel a little differently. So it was definitely an important scene there for lots of reasons. What did you think of that opening?
No, I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought, like I said, I thought it was very funny. And you're exactly right. And I'm guessing that this is a choice from the creative team here, that they're pointing out that corporations bad, and they all the things they say they're going to give to the consumer, to the customer, it's secondary. It's not important, and like you said, these premium customers, what exactly did they get that the average regular steerage customer didn't,
Yes. Yes.
Other than they probably got a shiny little, ID card that said premium on it, right? Or they got to pre-board or whatever. And ultimately it was just about making money, which again is kind of the corporate design anyway. The number one goal of any corporation is the survival of the corporation, and everything else is secondary, including the customers. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So and you're right, just the way all of these different groups were coming in and as if they were like trying to come up with a pitch for like hot dogs. But it was, instead it's, hey, this is what a 5 megaton mushroom cloud looks like. And this is a 10 megaton, which we kind of like. But, in reality, it'll only be a 5, and it'll actually be several 5. It'll be a cluster. But we think that's too busy for a bill, and, just totally glossing over the deaths of, hundreds of thousands of, if not millions of people, that they're just kind of, as you said, cavalierly just, that's what it's going to be, And then, like you said, first of all, what a great way to give us the answers to why the water chip broke in the vault.
Yes.
Right. And
Right.
and for them, but then like you said too, the fact that this guy's like, so we figured out that the water chip's going to fail. And so if you notice, the next thing he said was not, we figured out how to fix it so all of them will work. That wasn't a thing that he said. It was just more
No.
of, yeah, it's 30%. And you know what? We can live with that number. And then to add insult to injury, it was like they can figure out ahead of time which ones are going to fail. Which again, it's like, why don't you just replace them? But
why don't you just fix
right,
them?
But no, and so then he throws it at her, said, so any preference? And it's hilarious because clearly they picked the vault that Hank went to.
Yep.
So you have to wonder exactly, hopefully we're going to see more of this, but when we find out, what maybe that was one of Barb's last things that she did at Vault-Tec before, she went and got frozen or whatever, But I this whole sequence I thought was again black gallows humor, no doubt. But I thought it was hilarious. So but again, Cold Dead Heart, I think your heart is definitely got a little bit more life to it and light and emotion and love and so on. Whereas for me, it's just all, there's just cobwebs and little mice in the corners and stuff. So, I thought this was very, very funny, this opening scene, and it was perfect. and when Bobby Apartment came in and opened up the attaché case, and there's the probably the first neck thingy, whatever we're gonna call it. And I love when he says something like it's the automated man, and then he goes, my goal was to make machines more human. But I guess this makes it go the other way. So whatever, and he's like, I don't get.
We're making humans more machines.
So I thought that was a cool line. And then you're right. And then she's like, we gave you a couple of vaults, so you can certainly experiment whatever you want. And he's like, oh, I think you must have missed the memo because you're paying me for this, so that I'm gonna get the cold fusion for my little project. And then she goes, and what project is that? And that's when he goes, above your pay grade, baby. Yeah. So yeah, I thought this scene was wonderful, and it cuts right into my first point, which is it jumps to the Fallout opening logo, and it starts with a side view of the logo, and you see the neck thingy on the F of Fallout, and then it slowly kind of rotates to where we can read Fallout, but it's Fallout with the controller chip or whatever it is, the automated man chip. I don't. We got to come up with something to call those things, because I don't know what they would be. But it's.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is the first time that we've seen the Fallout logo from a different angle first. It's always been head on first. Like front facing. So this is their first time sort of twirling it a little bit to give you a different view. I just thought that was great.
I did too. I thought it was wonderful. Again, it's consistently interesting, with the opening logo, the opening of the episode. So yeah. I when I was coming up with my points, I was super close to putting in the water chip or the 5 or 10 megatons, or Bud, eating the what looks to me like Portillo's French fries, while talking about the dedicated freeway lanes, which that's just money on the table, and I'm like, what? I was like, I will bet, anything that's going to be one of your points. And so I'm like, I'm just going to move on and pick something else. And so, I loved it.
And you were right.
So,
yeah. All right. So that was your number one. So my number two, from a different part of the episode.
I thought this was hilarious too.
It really was. All right, fine. So there were some funny moments in the episode. if it's one thing that I've been enjoying the slow burn on, and I know I said the thing about wanting, but the people that are trying to get somewhere, that I want them to actually get there. Because, I mean, you know, from California to Vegas is a set amount of distance. And then once you get there, they put all these obstacles in their way and whatever. And I guess that makes it a lot like a video game. I agree. But I have really enjoyed the slow burn of Chet's terrible life.
Yes.
And you got nothing but sympathy for this poor guy, because from day one, I mean, has Chet ever really had a good day? Other than, and I would actually say that even though he was able to have sex with Stephanie, I would say...
Yeah. Are you sure they have?
I don't think so, because weren't they about to have sex and she broke her water?
Yeah.
Wasn't that what happened?
Yeah.
Or they were in mid-coitus, as it were? So Chet has consistently never had a good day.
Right.
And it just keeps getting worse. And for him to be engaged without his knowledge...
it was so great.
...is just... And I love the humor of the scene where he's just like... They reminded you in the previously on that he heard the whole exchange between Woody and Stephanie with the whole...
The experiment.
What did you mean by experiment? Yeah. And she goes, overseer stuff. And so he heard that whole exchange, saw her Canadian ID stuck in the drawer, blah, blah, blah. So he already was unhappy. And he was already scared because, hello, the scene in her office where she's like peeling the orange with the sharpest knife known to man. So he's already unhappy. He's already scared. And now he's afraid for his, like, you know, the lives of the people around him. This isn't just him, but now it may affect all the people around him. And so in that moment, when Woody is brought up and he's like, oh, Davey, what's going on with Woody? He's like, you want the truth? And he's like, yes, the truth. I would like the truth. And he's like, yeah, I don't even really like checkers, but I play because, and I'm just like, poor, you know that Chet just really wants to be able to reach out and shake Davey in that moment. But he doesn't, because he's a sweet guy. He's very nice. And so he just chomps down on it. And, you know, Woody's missing, which is really, you know, scary. And then, you know, Davey makes the comment about blah, 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 your wife. And he's like, she's not my wife. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, fiancé. And he's like, what are you talking about? And then the guy that was like in the background,
I saw the poster.
He's like sweeping. He's like, I saw the poster. He's like, there's a poster. And then when he sees the poster and it's just Steph and Chet are getting married tomorrow. And it's almost like in Indiana Jones when he's trying to get out of the that one area in the beginning of the movie, and he like slides underneath and then at the last second grabs his hat and the thing comes down. Chet is at the grab his hat point of his life right now. The door is about to come down, and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to pull himself out. So something has to come to a head before this, and maybe that's the, like, you know, maybe that's the really, like, dramatic piece that happens before the end of the season for these characters inside that vault. I mean, there's a couple of different things, but clearly Woody is missing, which that's problematic. And I'm curious what's going on there, but poor Chet. Chet is like the sad-sackiest sack out of all of these people, and every bad thing that can possibly happen to a human being has been happening to him. And if you were to look out from, from all these other people that are observing him, he's got like a really pretty, wife, fiance / partner. There's a new baby, and they try and celebrate babies where they can, especially when there's no inbreeding that happens there. So he's, there's a baby involved. They're starting a new life kind of together. On the outside, it looks like he's kind of got it made in the shade. But he is literally in hell. This poor guy. So yeah, Steph and Chet are getting married tomorrow is my point number 2.
Yeah, I love it when he comes up to Davy and Davy's like, "Have you seen Woody?" And he's like, "No." And he's like, "He was supposed to play checkers with me." And then he's like, and he goes like, "Do you want the truth?" And you're right, Chet is just like so like starving for someone to be honest with him because
Yes.
Steph is just, I mean, basically he's convinced now that everything Steph says is a lie. Everything, and so he is just like you can just tell he's like so convinced that like Davy's like, "You want to know the truth about Woody? He's been kidnapped or whatever." You know what I mean? He's gonna tell him something, and then it's like, "I don't even like checkers."
Nope.
You're like, "Oh no, Davy, you don't get it." Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
You're right, and my guess is like the last good day that Chet probably had is way back when he got to do some cousin stuff with Lucy.
Probably,
That's really it, because everything that's happened to him since then, he has not enjoyed at all.
Yeah. And he's got nobody there on his side.
Right.
He's, he could always sort of count on Norm to be that sort of voice of reason for him, but he's just not there. And he's really flailing without, Lucy was different because he was infatuated with her, but his friendship with Norm is the thing that's really like, we had this discussion at the beginning of the season where we're like, does this mean that Chet's going to stay where he is because he's kind of a coward when it comes to stuff, or will he step up? So it's hard to see what he's going to do, but I'm very curious, and I really think it's coming to a head. This storyline for sure.
I agree with you. He's literally like very close to having decided if he's going to shirt or get off the pot.
Exactly.
And so we'll have to see. I think your really good term you use is the slow burn, which it is, because you can just see it. It's like building up and building up, where like this guy who physically he's a very imposing guy.
He's a big dude.
He is, but he's just meek, and he's a follower, and he's I don't want to rock the boat kind of a guy. That's just his personality.
Yes.
But you can just see it. It's like building and building and building, and he is eventually going to explode.
Which is interesting, because I would love to see that happen.
Yeah.
I would love to see Chet explode into something we haven't seen before. That would be super, super interesting and very entertaining.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Yeah. And the whole like there's a poster. I mean, again, I think there was just there were several laugh out loud moments in this episode. But you're right. It's like you're laughing at his misfortune, which I guess is the whole point of comedy. And anyway, comedy is basically drama plus distance, right? But But yeah, it's it's not like he said a funny line. You're just laughing at just, oh my God, how much worse can it get for this guy? So.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is like the slow burn every week has been, oh God, what else? Oh, poor Chet. Oh God, Chet.
No, get out of there, Chet. Get out of there.
Poor Chet. I don't know if he's gonna make it. We'll have to see. He may not.
Awesome.
He may not. Awesome. All right, so let's talk about your number 2.
Yeah. We get a flashback, but I think I just want to mention there's a real cool moment where we go to the ghoul impaled on the like light post or whatever it is, and it's hilarious there because he's literally like little help, and they're like people just walking by and just totally ignoring him, and there's a really cool transition where he literally like falls back and his arms are over, like over his head, and he's kind of arched back because again he's impaled on this massive post, and it's you get a shot looking down at him, and then it smash cuts to him lying on the bed in Vegas in the before time. From the end of the last episode, right, where he got all drunk and Barb's kind of caring for him, and then he has that "we have to talk" line.
Yes.
And I just want to,
yes, very
and
important.
I just want to say though that I thought that was a really cool transition to
Oh,
go
yeah.
from impaled, like turning feral ghoul Coop to the the pre-war regular Coop. I thought that was really sweet. But
Yes.
anyway, so he he and Barb kind of have it out, and he lets her know that he knows her whole plan and the whole the whole thing about she's the monster at the end of this book. And she is like, I beg your pardon, and then he kind of lets her have it about what he knows about what she's gonna do, and
Right.
one of the things that, because she tries to she throws this argument, and I think this was a poor choice on her part, because she's like, I'm doing it for Janie, to protect my daughter. And he's like, so you're willing to kill thousands, if not millions, of other moms and their little girls as long as ours is okay? And she's like, wouldn't you do the same? And I'm just like, Barb, I think that was weak sauce. That was a poor choice to make your argument there. I would have led with the I'm being forced to do it if it was me, but whatever. But anyway, she throws that out, and his response to that is, the thing I can't figure out is, were you a monster back then, or did you become one later? And I'm just like, talk about like, oh, Barb, you got some blood coming out of that nose, because he just tagged you really good. I wrote that line. That was my point. But I mean, that whole confrontation I thought was just really, really great, because he kind of like was saying the things that like I wanted to yell at that woman. Like, well, have you lost your mind? Like, this is your solution?
Yeah.
How can you justify all that stuff? And we also get the added bit of finally she's like, look, I didn't have a choice. I was being coerced. And then he's like, so someone coerced you. And then we get that great elevator sequence where she gets in the elevator and there's Wilzig.
I love it. I love it.
As soon as Michael Emerson started talking, because she gets in the elevator and you kind of see like his shoulder, so somebody's in the elevator with her, but you don't know who it is. And then she's just like, she's almost like rubbing her temples, like, I just need like 5 minutes to like scream, and let it all out. And then he starts talking, and as soon as like the first word, you're like, holy crap, it's Michael Emerson. Oh.
Yeah. And of course, like I said before, I'm doing a rewatch of Lost, so he started speaking. I was like, oh my god, it's Linus.
Oh yeah. And I thought what was really cool about that is he basically says, remember your place here and what you need to do. But then he goes, because if you don't, you'll be dead. And then he says something like, and if I don't remind you of this, I'll be dead too. So you get the idea that like he's being forced to go to her and remind her of, you kind of got to end the world here, So anyway, that whole, bit that starts with the transition from, impaled ghoul to Coop on the bed, to the discussion, the argument between Coop and Barb, and then the reveal that it was Wilzig, that son of a birch, that was basically there to remind, and I'm just going to use air quotes here, remind Barb of her obligations to the company.
Yeah. Oh god. It's crazy. And then obviously it gives more substance, it gives more layers to the whole idea of what the Enclave was, post-apocalypse, like who they were. Well, they existed before the apocalypse. They were around then. So I liked all that, sort of putting that context together. That's a great scene. And what's really great about it too is the Coop part where he says the thing about being a monster back then or whatever, is that also underscores the importance of the first scene, from my point, which was you get this sympathetic view of Barb, and then you get this other moment where without that sympathetic view of Barb, you would be right there with, and here, don't get me wrong, her tactics and things like that, you still need to be yelling at Barb because she's doing it wrong. She's going about it wrong, like trying to get Coop back on the wagon with her. But she is also up against some strong forces between, those presentations that are coming at her where people have no regard for human life, with, Wilzig just showing up and reminding her, don't forget who you are and what you're supposed to do. And it's like all of this pressure. And then when he says the thing about being a monster, it's great because you, in that moment, you completely understand where Coop is coming from, but you also are starting to get a little bit sympathetic to Barb and her plight, because like you were saying at the beginning, it's not black and white. There are shades of gray there, and it's becoming really clear that Barb is smack dab in the gray, and it's hard to, she's not the devil she's been made out to be. She's not an angel either, but she's not this terrible person. Right. She's got other things so many other things are at work. Some things that haven't even really been explained yet.
Yeah. That's what I said. The last 2 episodes, they've done a really good job of kind of like changing at least my perspective on 2 characters that going into it, it's bad that I did this, but I was just like, bad guy, you and just kind of thinking in very broad terms. And the fact that you're, and don't get me wrong, House, he's, I wouldn't put him in the he's being forced to do this category, but I think because he's rich, we'll just call him eccentric. If he didn't have any money, we would say he's, flipping crazy. But of course. But he's not the puppeteer. He's not the one orchestrating all of the let's end the world thing. You know what I mean?
Correct.
And the same thing with Barb. Even though Barb pitches that idea in that sales meeting from the end of season 1, we find out she was kind of forced to do it. Yes. and so you're right, and I just thought that was just so great that it made it to think. I was kind of amazed and surprised that I'm like, wow, I actually feel sorry for her, and I didn't think that was possible.
And I think that that's important. Like that was not necessarily the point of the opening scene, but it adds that layer. It adds more gray into the mix. So that there isn't. And you're right, there are a couple of people, there's a couple of scenes with Hank that, later on make you feel like, these people are not angels by any stretch, but are they, based on what their motivations are? Why did you do this? So if their intentions were one thing and it didn't work out, it's like, can you fault them completely? You can fault them for part of it, but exactly. Yeah. So yeah, great. Love all that stuff. All right. So my third point kind of ties into your fifth point as well.
Yes.
So we can just talk about that, which is the super mutant. Amazing. Yeah. So is this an element of the game? I have to ask. The super mutants in the game.
Absolutely. Okay. Yes.
Oh, you know what? I knew that because when I looked up the voice, which we'll get to in a second, when I looked up who the voice was, because I was like, I think I know that voice.
Oh, I did immediately. I'm like, yep.
Yeah. Not only is it a voice I recognize, but it's a voice that has also done voices for Fallout, the game. So from day one, they were involved in the very first Fallout stuff. So I was reading an article about his involvement. So obviously everybody knows it's Ron Perlman who did the voice. And what's funny about the episode was, we talked last week where the way things left off in episode 5, I was dying to see how things, especially with the way things left with, the ghoul being impaled and Lucy being taken by her dad, all this other stuff. I really wanted to see what's going to happen next. What's the next moment? And so on Wednesday, I watched right away. And when I watched that episode earlier in the day, I had listened to a podcast where Ron Perlman was the guest. No. And so his voice was right at the front of my head. And so when that scene happened, I was like, is that Ron Perlman? Because it certainly sounds like him. And then they showed the face, and I was like, well, it doesn't really look like him. And I was like, oh, but he could just be doing the voice. And then I Googled, and I was like, oh, God, there it is. So anyway, so Super Mutant, a part of the game, confirmed. And then the voice, Ron Perlman, fantastic. Hopefully we see some more of him, because he's great. I love him. But yeah, he says a really great line. He saves the ghoul, and brings him back to life, as it were. He heals him, and I love when he puts the piece of radioactive material.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, uranium, it's bad for them, but it helps us. And so he repairs the hole in his midsection with this big chunk of like nuclear waste.
Well, he says it's like uranium or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's fantastic, but he makes this really great line when he goes to fix him. He says, "There's a war coming, and we'll need you healthy."
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised by that, because what is the war that's coming? I'm very curious, because right now we've only been involved in, there's kind of like the little civil war and insurrection stuff that's happening within the Brotherhood of Steel. So that's sort of off to its side and not really connected with our main characters we've been with. And Lucy is on her own journey, trying to get to her dad. There's obviously the stuff about the cold fusion is in the background, but I'm curious, like when the super mutant says that there's a war coming, I don't know, like, what war could he be talking about? And I hope we see it, or at least get teased like that war is happening in season 3. Don't worry, you're going to see all of it, kind of thing. But yeah, I thought that was a really, really interesting sort of line to slide in there. He's helping the ghoul out, not out of any kind of good feeling, but because he feels like he's going to need him. There's something that's on the verge of happening. I don't know what it is yet, but we're going to need your help for it. So there it is. So you included the super mutant too. So let's talk some more. So what are your thoughts on that scene?
Yeah, it was awesome. The super mutants are a huge part of the game. Although the one that we get in the episode is a very rare super mutant, because most of them are very dim, and they're kind of like imagine like the cave trolls from Lord of the Rings, where they're like
Yep.
big and dumb and strong. And
Okay.
in the game, for instance, there's one the super mutants that they literally they run around, and they're holding like a little mini nuclear bomb, and it and like you hear it like going doot, 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 and it's blinking, and the whole thing is it just runs at you and it'll explode and to take out a city block. So, but there are very rarely in the game you do find more intelligent super mutants that do actually converse. In Fallout 4, you get one that can be your companion and go with you, which is kind of cool. And so you kind of can talk to him occasionally and kind of learn a little bit more about them and stuff. But everything that they showed, like if you remember, when like it, he's like dragging Coop along, and Coop's kind of going in and out of consciousness, but he sees like there are these like hanging, almost like hanging plants, are these like big balls, and they're like they got like chains that are like holding them up, and like they're like all gooey and dripping, and they look, it's like a whole bunch of like internal organs and body parts and stuff that have been ripped apart are all put together in this big glob, and they suspend that.
Okay.
You see a couple of them in the episode. That is straight out of the game. Whenever that's like the telltale sign. You go into some building or something at some ruins, and you see those things, and you're like, oh crap, they're super mutants here. And so that was spot on. And the way that he talked with that kind of they took Ron Perlman's voice, and they clearly did some treatments to it to make it sound like they lowered the register to make his voice even lower, and enhanced it a little, and then that also is the way that they sound in the game. And yeah, it was very cool because we've kind of been teased about the super mutants for the last couple of seasons.
Huh.
And I think the whatever that virus was that Norm started to read about on Barb's terminal in last week's episode,
Yes.
what was like the FEV or FPV or whatever it was, and he was looking for the future enterprise ventures and
Yes.
found the other thing, which was the virus. I'm pretty sure that's gonna be like the origin of the super mutants, that they were created by probably the Enclave. I think at this point, my money is the Enclave created the Death Claws, and we're working on developing like super soldiers, and that became the super mutants. They're just like, their whole angle is, let's see what we can do to improve or change people, and make them
Right.
into whatever we need, the type of thing. But yeah.
Well, Coop had that one line, if you remember, when the mutant was like, he was basically saying stuff that was very we oriented, and like, we're the same, or we're cut from the same cloth, like that kind of energy. And Coop was like, I think you and I were infected by a different bug.
We got different bug. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
So
yeah.
So if he's immediately saying, and putting it out there, if you have no game experience, which I don't, I immediately knew, like, whatever it was that happened to Coop and all of the others that are becoming ghouls, they've been exposed to stuff in a different way than the super mutant was. He's something totally different.
Yeah. But they kind of have enough of a kindred that the super mutants, like, hey, we're on the same side of whatever, this war that's coming, that's going to be them versus us. So you're going to, we're going to have to heal you up. And then Coop says something like, I just want to get my family back. And then the super mutant goes, well, then you're going to need friends, right? And he's like, I do all that alone. And so then the super mutant's like, well, if that's the case, then you can't know like where we live. And then he like, cold cocks him and knocks him silly, right? And so on. But yeah, I love that scene. I thought it was so cool because the super mutants are a huge part in the Fallout universe, and much like the Death Claws, they're kind of like two of the most common things you run into, besides like raiders, besides like just people that are all dressed up like they're in the Road Warrior and running around shooting at you. So that was very, just again, the gamer nerd in me was super excited when that sequence happened, and the fact that they didn't really show us the super mutant. You never really got a good look at him. He's always kind of in the shadows, true. Right?
Yes.
And all that. So I thought that was really well done. So yeah, that was my fifth point. And all I wrote was a super mutant because it was so cool. So really hope that we see more of him and his people going forward here. But he really, if you think about it, it would require something massive like that to get the ghoul off of that post. There's just no way. There's no way he was gonna. He tried that scene when he tries to like pull himself up.
Oh,
I was
God,
like,
yeah.
oh my God, the arm strength to do that.
And the way that they were closed captioning that whole scene, squelching noise. Flesh squelching noise, and you're like, oh.
I know, you're just like, oh my god, I'm throwing up, oh my god, yeah, and then like he finally gets like the one hand can reach the top of it, and then I'm like, how are you gonna get yourself off this? How? Because eventually you're gonna get up to the point where you're like the top of the pole is going to be at the beginning of the hole of you, and then what do you do? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, he was screwed. If
No
if
matter
something
what.
didn't
Yeah.
come and help him, either cut that thing or just break it like the Superman did, yeah, he was screwed.
Yeah.
And I also loved how he was like starting to turn. I thought that
Yes.
was a
Yeah.
really
And
interesting moment.
I liked that they included in the previously on the I'm
Yeah.
Roger stuff to remind
Yeah.
you that it wasn't just Coop reminiscing and having him say out loud, I'm Cooper Howard. He's doing it just like Roger. He's reminding himself, I'm a
Yeah.
person. I was a person. And as soon as he said, I'm Cooper Howard, I was like, no, he's switching.
He's turning, yeah. But-
This is bad. And I loved his reaction. He's like, not today.
Yeah, oh,
Not
but
today.
he's like, I have a daughter, Janie, and yeah, in the scenes, in the previous scenes, we did get Roger, but my thought, when he started doing that, I went back to the one girl ghoul that was in one of those like freezer containers
Yes.
that kept saying my
Yes.
name's Marnie or whatever her name was, and the one that Lucy's like, I let them all out, and those two guys are like, you want all of them out? Like that's not a good idea. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, the whole scene, the super mutant scene was amazing, and obviously we got Coop healed, and then he dumps him, and then of course that sets up the reunion, if you will, when Thaddeus and Maximus come upon. Like I think Dogmeat ends up taking him to him, right? Isn't that what happens?
Yes,
yeah,
he does.
So,
He sure does.
So yeah,
With this fucking
Yeah.
hat.
I don't
He's like,
need
my
the
fucking
hat.
hat. Give me the
Yeah.
satchel.
Oh yeah.
Great
Yeah.
scene. All right, so that was my number 3. We're talking Super
Mhm.
Mutant in your number 5. My number 4. So I'm a person who's worked in many offices, but I don't think I've seen a stapler wielded quite that way
Oh.
before. And that was just like the I would say the peak of the scene where we get the assembly line of all of these undesirables who have been turned into workers. They are now all the automated
Mhm.
man, and they're working for Hank, and it looks like they are simply just making more automated
Oh
men,
yeah, no, that's all they're doing.
like the little
They're
plugs.
mass producing. They're like you said, they're assembly lining more
Yeah.
of the neck things. Well, again,
yeah.
we got to come up with a term
Neck
for
plugs.
this, okay?
Yeah, something like that. Remote controls, neck remote controls, as you were. So, there's this whole, the whole scene, and Lucy is trying to, she has woken up and she has rejected everything that Hank has tried to give to her, and she basically she's trying to take him back to the vault, and she's got like a pair of scissors at his throat and then puts cuffs on him. She's leading him out, takes him through the area where the the assembly line is, and he's introducing her to all the people, oh, this person used to do this, and then that person used to do that, and da-da-da-da. He's sort of selling her on the points of the, the automatic man, or the, what's the word that they use? Automated man, sorry. And at the end of it, snake oil salesman dude comes in, and he's like, boss, we've got these 2 that are supposed to be processed, and it's the dude we've already seen from the NCR, and then it looks to be one
guy from the Legion.
The guy from the Legion, like this big dude from the Legion. And they are clearly warring tribes. They hate each other. And much like he said about these other 2, Gregory and whatever, are from warring factions. And a week ago, they would have killed each other, but now they're, blah, blah, blah. And they're in, like, shirts and ties, and it's so hilarious.
Coffee? After you, bud. No, after you. And then they see Lucy. Would you like some coffee? They have those fake, Stepford wife smiles on their faces and stuff.
So great. Very robotic. Yep. So, snake oil salesman's like, boss, what do we do? These 2 need to be processed. Should we go ahead and do that? And And, Hank's like, all we got to do is press the button and they'll be like all of these others because they've got the implant already. And they just need to be brought online, as I'm using air quotes there. And Lucy says, no, don't do it. And he's like, okay, let them go. And so they do. And oh my God, this big fight that ensues is hilarious. And Lucy tries to intervene. She's trying to help out. And eventually the Legion guy, he overpowers and he ends up with like a big like industrial size stapler and just slams it into the NCR guy's forehead. Slam, does it again. Slam, does it again.
He staples him like 5 times. He's got 5 staples in his skull.
Meanwhile, Hank is like, the only way we can stop this is to press the button. And she finally relents and says, go ahead and press
She pushes it.
So she goes up and she does it. And it's interesting because this actually ties a little bit into what your third point was there too. The stapler is like the end of the scene, but you've got a great quote as your third point, which is in a previous scene with Hank and Lucy, and you can tell that she's got this quote in her head when she makes that decision. So I love the stapler moment, but let's talk a little bit about the Hank and Lucy stuff that led up to it, which is your quote.
Lucy wakes up and she's, in the Vault-Tec, wherever he is, that's where she is, which is kind of what we thought was going to happen, right? So good for us. We figured it out. We broke the code.
We're so smart. We're so smart.
We are so smart. SMRT, ART. And so she gets up and, she like literally she's in this place and it almost looks like, a room back in the vault that she grew up in, and
it does. It totally does.
And, he's got like this little yellow dress on a hanger that, clearly, and he's like, change out of that icky vault thing and put this on. And she's walking around and there's like a note that says like, when you wake up, dial 0. And she's just like, pfft. And she leaves, right? And she's exploring and she sees these 2 Legion guys that are coming down the corridor and she like grabs a fire extinguisher and is like ready to bash them. And then she jumps out and they're like, good morning, how are you? It's a great day, and they have that they're clearly been processed and are super nice. And,
the Stepford Wife thing.
And they have that like creepy, nice vibe. And she's just like, what is going on, And so she eventually finds this room where she goes in and there's, again, it looks like a room in the vault. There's like a kitchen and a kitchen table and Hank is in there and he's like making breakfast and he sees her and he's like, oh, hey. How you doing, Sugar Bomb? And then he has on the table a book of All Quiet on the Western Front. And he's like, we never got to discuss this book. We never, I guess we put it off we're going to do it after the wedding. And she's like, I didn't have time to finish it, or I never finished it. And he's like, well, what was like the most distressing things that what you did read? And she's incredulous. Like, really, you're trying to go back to like the way things were and that's like over. And, I'm here to take you in, that whole thing. And he starts talking about, he said the quote that I wrote down, he goes, to me, the most troubling was that everyone seemed to be fighting over nothing. As you point out, All Quiet on the Western Front is a book about the Great War, about World War I. And there's a great Netflix movie that came out a few years ago, and there's an older movie from like the 1930s that won, I think, several Academy Awards. That's really good too. And it's about these German soldiers that they're very excited and gung-ho to go to war when it starts, and then of course they get there and they see the horror and the slaughter and the meaningless death, and then it's a very, very downer book. Okay, it's not a rah war's exciting. It's oh my God, I can't believe that we do this kind of thing. All right, and it's great. It's a really cool book if you never ever read it. But anyway, that's what he's talking about. And he goes, the most troubling thing is everyone seemed to be fighting over nothing. The French and the Germans. What was the difference between them, really? I mean, other than the uniforms. And then he goes on to say, I saw the same thing up on the surface, people fighting over the most petty things like bottle caps. And I thought
Mm.
that was a really cool line. And I'm not going to say that I'm feeling sorry for Hank or have any sympathy, but they're trying real hard
Yes, they
to
are.
get a little gray into Hank, because
Yes.
she's like, she pulls this, like you said, she puts the scissors up to his throat, and she's like, you're coming with me to Vault 33 to stand tribunal, and you'll be appointed a lawyer, and you're gonna pay for your crimes. And um and he's like, okay, you're right. He's like, you know what, I did it to protect you, but maybe it was too great, maybe it was too much, and I went too far. And I'm like, really? Maybe you did? It's like, no, you did. But uh he at least is willing to go, like, yep, all right, let's go. If that's what you want to do, Lucy, that's what we'll do. And so then she's trying to get out of wherever they are, and then they go into the construction area where everybody's building the chips, and then all that
Right.
stuff happens. So yeah, I loved that scene too. I thought that was a great bit for both yeah, Lucy, Ella, and obviously Kyle MacLachlan. And how great is Kyle
Mm.
MacLachlan? I mean, just it's just such a I just really am enjoying his performance as
Yeah.
Hank. He's just
Yeah.
really good. So
Yeah. The only thing that's weird about his portrayal is they have to do the computer-ish, like,
oh,
age
the
him
de-aging,
down.
yeah,
The de-aging is super
hmm
creepy. It's super creepy
yeah.
looking. He just looks way too smooth.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. They haven't quite. I mean, at some angles it looks really good, but other angles you're like, yeah, that's fake.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I just thought that was really, and you're right. They are working really hard to add some, for some they might end up with some sympathy for Hank. But like I was saying, you right, nail on the head. They're adding
Mhm.
gray for Hank. They're showing perspective. They're showing, and this was a real object lesson. He makes that statement about World War One, and what's the difference? What are we fighting about? And then that in that moment where the NCR guy and the Legion guy are fighting, it's the same thing. What are they fighting about?
Right.
Nothing. It's really
Yeah.
nothing. It's bottle caps, like he was saying. It's power, which who cares? Someone else is going to come along and beat you up, and they'll have the
Right.
power. So it's the fruitlessness of war, and he's going about it the wrong way. But that's exactly like what I was saying before. His intentions are good. He just is doing it in, like, out of all of them, he's doing it in the worst
Yeah.
way. you know, um, this is not the way. You don't avoid wars by creating a bunch of automatons, but it makes a fine point to Lucy in that moment that she has experienced life up, on topside, as it
hmm
were, out in the wasteland. And I mean, she was given the opportunity to change into this pretty yellow dress or whatever, and she's still in the same outfit. And she's still splattered
Oh,
with
yeah,
blood
yeah,
from
yeah.
whatever is the last time that she had to kill something.
Probably
So
Sunny.
yeah, so it's like, uh, she knows that it's rough out there in the wasteland, and that a lot of these battles mean nothing because she was a part of it. The Legion fighting each other for God knows how many years, just because they wouldn't admit that one person was the leader over the other person. You know what I
hmm
mean? Like, it was all about power. And the battle was so stupid, and she knows that, and she was there to witness it. And she's not condoning what he's doing, but she also knows that that NCR guy and the Legion guy killing each other makes no sense. It's stupid for them to be automated robots, but it's just as stupid for them to kill each other for no
Yeah.
reason. you know. So it's an object lesson for Lucy, but it's, you know, it also, like you were saying, it adds a little gray for Hank, which they're trying real desperately for you to, you know, see his side of it, see my side of
Right.
it.
Well, just not hate him as much, I think is what
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
going for. Although, I mean, you know,
yeah.
he nuked a whole city, so it's we don't really know the full story yet, but like what we have been told for very petty reasons, like his wife, you know, left him. And so his
Yeah.
reaction is, well, I'm just going to nuke that place, you know, and her. You know, it's kind of hard to make that sympathetic. I'm sorry, it is. You know, even for me, that's a lot. Um, but
Yeah,
but yeah,
exactly.
you know, the whatever bunker, you know, Voltec stuff between Lucy and Hank and the whole production line with all of the Stepford people that, you know, are, you know, and this is of course where, you know, the gal's making the trail mix, right? And she looked kind of ghoulish to me. You know,
Yes.
but and I think doesn't Lucy somebody like, where did you, you know, get all these people? And he's like, oh, all over, they're everywhere, you know, just easy, you know, easy peasy. And right, and just you go up there, you just hit him with a crowbar, put the chip in, you're good, you know. um
Yeah. Yeah.
but and it's kind of scary to see how, you know, many people he's already converted.
I
You know,
know.
I mean, because you know, last week he had one guy, he had the snake oil guy, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you say? There was what, 30 people in that room?
Yeah, easily. And obviously they're making all of those more of the neck
Yeah,
chips, as it
yeah,
were, and you know, they're bringing in more people and attaching them. So he's, you know, is he trying to change the face of humanity, or is he trying to build an army?
yeah,
I'm
yeah. Well, yeah,
curious.
he said something in a previous episode where it was, you know, basically he said something along the lines of, you know, there'll always be war when there are different sides. So the only way to eliminate war and have peace is to have everybody on the same side. You know, only we just have
Right.
our side. That's it. There are no other sides. And I think that philosophy is kind of playing through here in that, you know, he has all of these people that are, they're not going to disagree with him. You know, they're not, you know,
Yeah.
they're going along with the program because of the chip more than anything. But
Yeah.
you know that, so you're right though. I had that thought too. Is it like, oh, is he like building up this force so that, you know, he can, you know, type a couple of commands on a keyboard somewhere and suddenly they're, you know, ready to pick up guns and be an army,
Yeah.
or whatever, you know, or are they just always going to be those kind of happy simpletons like that are, you know, oh, this is so great. And did you not laugh when uh you know, Lucy's like, you have to let all these people go. And he's just like, okay. And so then he's like, okay, everybody, we're leaving, but you are free. And she's like, you're free now. You can leave. And the one guy's like,
Do we
it's
have to?
scary up there, you know. And then they're like, I don't want to do it, you know. And so I thought
Yeah.
that was really kind of amusing. And so then Hank's like, well, you don't have to leave. You can stay here as long as you want, but we're gonna have all the doors open when we go. You know. So,
Yes.
but yeah. So I thought that was again a little humorous bit there where the guy's like, do we have to? I don't want to know. I don't want to leave. What are you talking about? So
It's rough
it
up
is.
there.
It's scary. Yeah. So anyway.
Oh my god. Great scene. Love all that stuff with Hank and
Yeah.
Lucy. And to end
The
it with the
stapler.
stapler.
Oh.
I know, great. My next point, my last point, is I love the scene where Coop in the before times is trying really hard to like get at he's trying to attack the problem, like who's in charge of all of this. And so he uh basically he brings, Hank back to their Vegas hotel room against his will.
No. I
He's still
did.
I mean,
he got him drunk, I thought, and then they. Yeah.
He did. He has ulterior motives. Let's put it that way. And Hank is not aware of them because he's drunk.
I
so
like Hank's like.
still...
I got the feeling that you didn't really like me.
Yeah, and I was like, you might be right, but he's got some other stuff to do. Let's wait and see how it goes.
I was like, that's a good feeling, Hank.
Yeah, hold on to that thought. And he's like, he still has that case handcuffed to his wrist, so he's clearly carrying something important. And because of that, it clearly has something to do with the cold fusion, and so he gets him really drunk. He's like, let's have some more drinks or whatever. And he's like, the line he says, I hope you like it strong, cowboy. Yeah. And I'm like, I guarantee he's said that as a line in a movie. And he's probably said it now as the ghoul. Like at some point we're going to see him with a shotgun and him saying, I hope you like it strong, cowboy. Yeah. And do the exact same thing. So yeah, I thought it was a real great punctuation to a scene where, he doesn't beat up Hank. He basically, there's no such thing as roofies back then, but he sort of does that.
Yeah.
He gets him drunk and, he passes out, and that's when he gets into the case and opens it up. Barb finds him, yada, yada. But still, like, I loved that his whole way moving forward in that scene was all about just making it relatable. Because Hank is like, made no mistake, he's a big fan of Coop. And he's honest, I didn't think you liked me.
You're not wrong.
Probably
not wrong.
You're not wrong, but Coop knows he's a fan, and so he uses that to his advantage, and the whole like calling him a cowboy, pulls him in closer and makes him feel like he's part of the group and he's all manly and you're a cowboy just like me, and pretty much. So I thought it was a fantastic scene. I loved it, and I loved that.
Yeah,
quote.
yeah, it was really cool. I although the scene leading up to it, when he and Barb are kind of finishing up their argument / conversation, where he asks Barb, who runs Vault Tech, and she literally is like, I don't know, right? Which is scary,
which is amazing, right?
Oh, it is, and again, with all the revelations, I was thinking about this, and I wanted to ask you, with all the stuff that we found out in this episode and last episode with House. If you go back a couple episodes, when Hank first gets to the Vault-Tec facility and he turns on the ham radio and he starts talking to someone, right? And he's like, "Sir, I hope you're well." And that remember that whole thing when he's like, "I'm gonna make the chips work, and then you're gonna be begging to work with me or whatever." Remember that bit?
Yeah.
I went into that. I went into that thinking he was talking to House. But now I'm starting to be like, could the other player, right? It's got to be somebody we haven't met yet, right? I mean, do you think that it's House, or do you think he was talking to someone else?
I think we were led to believe it was House. We were sort of led along that path based on how things sort of came to fruition in this episode. And I think you're right. I think they're gonna do like a switcheroo, and it's gonna end up being somebody else. It's gonna be really interesting to see who it is. It may very well be someone we haven't even met yet. You know? So it's very interesting. It's a shame that like Wilzig had to die in the first season, because you could make a case for it could have been Wilzig as like the head of everything, but but yeah, I really think that's. I think it's going to be a switcheroo. I think you're right. I think we're going to meet someone new that we haven't met yet, or someone we've already met and we like wrote them off as like not necessarily important.
It's
or in charge.
Betty.
Yeah.
No. Well, and I just would point out again, they're kind of giving us these breadcrumbs, because I'm starting to think that Hank is like he's part of some other group that he was like put in to Vault-Tec specifically for a reason, because remember in the beginning scene with Barb, when all the kind of the montage of all the different departments talking to her, when we finally get to Bobby apartment, Hank comes in and he's like, I switched with Betty to take notes for this specific presentation.
Yep. Yeah.
And so it's not, he wasn't supposed to be in there. It was supposed to be Betty, because Betty's obviously Barb's assistant. And yet he like, I switched, and he's like, I hope that's okay. And at the time, you're kind of like, yeah, he's brown nosing, he's, but now with all the little tidbits we've got, it's almost like, no, I'm starting to think that he needed to be in there, because cold fusion was something that everybody wanted, and he wanted to, see what it was. And that's why when he, it wasn't cold fusion, it was the chip. But when, he opened it up, he kind of leaned forward to see it. But cold fusion was involved, because that was the payment that House was going to get for the chip. But yeah, I agree. I thought that the whole like getting him drunk thing, kind of exploiting his like fanboyness with Coop, and I love it when he kind of stomps away from his wife, and she's like, where are you gonna go? And he's like, to do something, and so then he goes down and he sees him, and they start drinking, and then they come back up, and he like totally slips him a Mickey. I mean, you see him, he like drops a pill in his glass and like stirs it up with his finger, and is doing all this stuff, and he's like, I hope you like them strong, cowboy. And then I thought it was cool too that Hank had the cold fusion just like Wilzig did. I mean, I was like everyone else, like they're gonna open the case and the little glowing little bottle's gonna be there, right? Didn't you think that?
Yeah, exactly. And then it wasn't, but eventually it was.
But he opened it up, and he takes out the gun, and he's like, "What the hell is this?" And then of course Barb shows up, which I think is interesting, because now Barb is maybe coming back to be more of a good guy. Or a good gal, I should say. And are they going to work together now? Which we've always kind of been under the impression that she left him and went off with Janie to the vault by herself, right? I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking happened in the before time, that they had a falling out. They were divorced, right? He said that when he was at the birthday party. And so you think, okay, they had something happened and split them up. And now it's kind of like, but they seem to be like working together now. And so again, I'm excited, because I don't know where the story's going to go. And
I'm also, I had been wanting to talk about that first scene too. So it's funny you bring that up, and how it doesn't sort of jibe with what we've been getting so far. But the Janie part confuses me, because if Janie was with him, because you have to assume that Coop is the way he is because he was exposed to the radiation because he didn't make it into the vault. Right. Is what I have always assumed was the reason, or the part of the story. So here's the thing: how did Janie get to the vault that's in Vegas? That's where Hank is. Yeah. How did that happen? I don't know. And how did he get Janie to Barb in time? Because the bombs are falling.
Oh, they're detonating.
When he's running. I mean, you know what I mean? So how does that even happen? So I'm curious how that's gonna resolve itself. It'll be interesting to see how it resolves.
I agree because it's like you said, it's just very they've told us. It's very, Darth Vader killed Luke's father kind of a past, right? And that's what, we were told in Star Wars. And then you find out, that's actually not what happened at all,
Right,
and yet, Obi-Wan is like, well, I wasn't technically wrong because in a certain sense he killed Anakin, and Luke's like, "Are you kidding me?" But and we're kind of getting that now because we were told one specific past of what happened, and
Right.
now as the pieces are kind of being revealed to us, like you said,
Mm.
it's not really jiving. It's like, yeah, no, that's not what we were in. Wait, something, we're missing something, so.
And it's all being told from Coop's perspective. He's the narrator. Like we're he and is he an unreliable narrator? Well, his memory stretches for 200
Mhm.
years, so it's like maybe something happened differently, or maybe that's in his mind. Maybe that's his fantasy of this is how I wish it had
Yeah.
happened, but it happened this way and it was uglier and whatever that may be. So just because we keep getting this flashback of him being at that birthday party with Janie and whatever, it could have happened a completely different way, and he's just remembering it that way or giving this version,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
as a remembrance. We shall
Yeah.
see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So those are all of my points. We hit your final, but we didn't touch on your fourth.
Right.
So let's talk about your fourth point.
Yeah, we do get a little of Maximus and Thaddeus. We continue that. We pick
Yeah.
up that storyline, and if you remember, they Dane got the cold fusion in the little capsule and gave it to Maximus. And the last scene we had of them is they were like walking through the desert, and behind them were all of the airships of the various factions of the Brotherhood. They're all shooting at each other and blowing up and explosions and you hear the gunfire. And so the Brotherhood is kind of like in the process of destroying itself when they leave, right? And so we kind of pick that storyline up, and they dump the armor, and Maximus is like, they got trackers in there and they'll eventually come looking for it. So it's like he says,
yeah.
like it's like more trouble than it's worth, and so they're just hoofing it on foot. And the guy Johnny Pemberton who plays Thaddeus, he's just so funny because he's like, so we're gonna sell this, right? And Max is like, no. And he's like, okay, well, like, maybe we'll just put out some feelers and maybe find some buyers and, make a deal. And he's like, no, we're not, no, and so they get into this discussion about, Maximus is like, I want to give it to a good person. And Thaddeus is like, you good people, what are you talking about? And Maximus asks that, like, where he came from, and he talks about this place called the Boneyard, and he's like, actually, like, the crappy part of the Boneyard. Maximus is like, well, I came from Shady Waters or Shady Acres or whatever it was called, Shady Sands. And he's like, so I knew good people. And Thaddeus is like, I've never, there are no good people. Everybody is rotten. Everyone's terrible. Everyone, is undesirable, all that stuff. And Maximus brings up Lucy, like, I want to, she's a good person. And Thaddeus is like, yeah, she's a vault person. Of course she's good. She grew up on a mountain of food in an unpenetrable, place to live. I mean, how could you not be good? And then he's like, we should sell it because we'll be rich, and then once we're rich, then we can be the good people you're talking about, because we'll have enough money where we don't have to do the horrible things that we do. Very twisted logic, right? And
of course.
And Maximus is adamant that no, that's not what we're gonna do. And Thaddeus, I wrote this line down. He goes, because Maximus is like, well, I want to give it to good people, and Thaddeus goes, because I've seen a lot of things, like crazy things, but good people. No.
Yeah.
No. So and again, I just really like that scene because you're right. Don't get me wrong, I thought this episode was hilarious, but it's very dark, and there's a lot of very dramatical type stuff in it, where it's not a lot of like laugh out loud, like funny lines. It's more of like the humor is in just the ironic situations that all these people are in for the most part. And so I thought that the Thaddeus and Maximus stuff was the lightest of all of the stuff in the rest of the episode. And so I
Yes.
just enjoyed that. And like I said earlier, I like the fact that it looks like they're like, becoming friends, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, Thaddeus is not just gonna like, well, I'm gonna go back to the sarsaparilla factory. Bye. I mean, I think
Yeah.
he's like kind of like with Max now, right? And they're,
Yeah, it's like along for the
yeah,
ride, and
yeah.
he's
And
fine
so,
with
so I,
that.
I really
Yeah.
enjoy that. I like that a lot. So, and just that, I just happen to like that line because, Thaddeus is kind of pointing out, like, yeah, have you looked around? There are no good people, and
Yeah.
Max is like, no, there are. We just got to find them. And so, and then of course, they get reunited with the ghoul, and then, when they walk in there, Max sees the ghoul and goes, fork. And Thaddeus is like, "Hey," and then it cuts to the ghoul, and the ghoul sees it's them, and he goes, "Ah, fork."
I loved that. I thought it was great when he's like, uh, when it's like, oh man. Basically, it's like,
Yeah.
oh man, and Thaddeus is like,
Hey
hey
man,
man.
yeah, yeah. And I'm trying to remember. I don't. Thaddeus never met the ghoul until then, right?
Um, I don't think so. I don't think so. But he knows dog meat though, because he's the one
Right.
that put
Oh
dog
yeah,
meat
in the
in
Coke in
the
the
thing.
cola thing. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
because he showed up after Philly.
Right.
Because Maximus
Right.
went to Philly, and that's when he was taught, when they called him on the radio, and he was pretending to be Titus, and so then he's like, yeah, my squire died, and so like, all right, we'll send you a replacement, and that's when Thaddeus showed up. So I don't think he met the ghoul until this episode. I think that was the first time that he'd ever met him. So, but
Yeah.
but yeah, so yeah, so now
Yeah.
the three of them, what are they? Are they going to go back into Vegas? Is the ghoul? What do you think the ghouls? Where's the ghoul's head now? Because the deal that he made with Hank was, family will be okay if you take Lucy back to the vault. I think that's kind of over, right?
Right. And he's also he's not going to be keeping an eye on Janie and Barb if he's leaving the vault
With Lucy.
with Lucy, you
Yeah.
know. So I'm stumped as to what's going to happen next, but I do love the idea of the comedic hilarity that's going to ensue with Thaddeus and the
Oh,
ghoul being
yeah.
together, cuz Thaddeus is like, he's kind of like the conscience. He says what everybody else is thinking, and he gets scared so easily. Like everything around him is like, "Oh God, man, no, not that, not that." So,
You
and
belong. You
knowing
belong.
how,
You belong.
yeah, so knowing that, uh, that like how the ghoul reacts in certain situations, very
Hmm.
violently usually, that I'm very curious to see like how that's gonna play out with like the ghoul
And
and
Thaddeus,
Thaddeus
yeah,
together. It's gonna be
and
fun.
Max for that part too, because Max is not exactly the ghoul's type of personality either. So
Right. That's totally true. Yeah, it's gonna be good times. Nice. We've covered our individual points. I actually covered my little honorable mention I had in there. Just wanted to keep that note in there. But do you feel like we covered your stuff?
just
We talked a little bit about
yeah, we
Wilsig.
did. Just the other one I had that I wrote down was I just wrote Woody, because Woody's vanished, right? He's gone,
Yes.
and
Yep.
uh, what it. I'm hoping that he's not dead, but I mean, there's not too many non-nefarious things that could have happened to him. It's like she didn't send him to Vault 31, right? Because
Hmm.
that's empty.
Right.
I doubt she sent him back to Vault 33. So where did they do with him? Did she put him up on the surface? Did she, I'm worried for Woody, okay?
Yes.
When he asked her the question about the experiment, I was like, what are you doing, man? And then this week to follow it up with, no one has seen him. Where's what? I don't know what he's got. That's it. I'm worried about him. So, and then the other thing, and I didn't write it down, but I thought this was funny, was when the credits rolled, you always get that little animation bit that they show you, and they start in Bud's office. And it's hilarious because on his desk is a pamphlet, and it says, "So you want to remove your brain?" And it has like a schematic drawing of like the Roomba, the brain in a Roomba thing. I just thought that was hilarious. But I think it's interesting because it lets us know that like that was the plan back then. I always kind of thought that, like, wouldn't you think Bud would just want to be frozen with the rest of them and survive? But he's like, no, I got to be there to watch over them all for hundreds of years. So I'm going to be put into a Roomba, and he was like, But then you see on the table next to it, there's a whole bunch of the Grognak the Barbarian comics, which again is a huge game thing. We've talked about them in the past. And a Grognak action figure is on his desk as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then the only other thing that I would say honorable mention, I loved we kind of talked about one of them. We didn't talk about the other, but there are two like musical numbers in this episode. One is the Stepford people building the chips, where they're all like in rhythm, handing, like someone will make one and then they'll reach over to the desk next to them and hand it to them and they'll take them. And it's all like this orchestrated thing, right? And they're all in tempo and rhythm. But then you get this other amazing musical bit with Reg and the club that he started, which is now huge. Like everybody's going there because clearly they have all the supplies, they have all the food and the water and whatnot and stuff.
Oh, of course.
And they play, he starts it, he sits down at the piano and then like, it fakes you into thinking he's playing the piano, and they're playing this old 50s song about going out and mining for uranium, and everybody there at the meeting are all like walking around the table full of snacks, and it's all like this shot from above, and it's like one of those old Ethel Merman movies where they're all in the pool, all the women are in the pool and they're doing the synchronized dance swimming thing. I mean, it's this whole thing. It was really fun. And I just wanted to touch base on that because I just thought that and the chips sequence or the manufacturing sequence was interesting, how they kind of bookended those two in the episode. One happens in the beginning and the other one happens near the end. I just thought it was really cool.
Yeah, it's really great. I'm also like, what's great is I love how they've this music just kills me. So much so that I can't even form thoughts and sentences, apparently. But it's great because, you watch the episodes multiple times and you're almost like looking forward to that moment. And you're like, because it's like, it's all these like upbeat tunes typically, and they're put against these like dark themed like moments, or there's a tongue-in-cheek moment in the whatever the tune is that they've picked. And it's just, I can't say enough about the music that they pick. It's fantastic. Awesome. Yeah. I think I hit all of my points, and it sounds like you hit all of yours.
I believe you are correct.
It's very rare that I'm correct. It's usually just like once an episode, and that might be it right there. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a quick break, everybody. When we come back, we're going to discuss all of our listener feedback and what's coming up next on the podcast.
So everyone, please stick around because we'll be right back.
Now there's about 20 of them out there.
What will we do?
Don't worry, we're safe in here. They'll never get in.
Why is it that in every zombie story, people always think that their safe haven is invulnerable?
I know. It's like, hello, the walkers are totally going to get in. You better get ready for it.
No! Diane, get behind me. No, it's not stopping.
Do something, Jack!
And another thing, how come nobody in a zombie story has ever seen a zombie story?
Do you know how much time in human life would be saved if just one person in the group was up on the genre?
What do we do?
Aim for the head.
What?
Aim for the head.
You heard them. Aim for the head.
Quick, Diane, I think we should try and fix the barricades.
I think we should listen to them.
Now, that's the first good idea they've had all episode.
I still don't think they're gonna make it.
Aim for the Head, a horror apocalypse entertainment podcast. Join hosts Diana and Steve as they recap and discuss the best of horror, sci-fi, fantasy, and apocalyptic entertainment. Aim for the Head, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Find us on Instagram and Blue Sky.
Hey there, this is Greg Nicotero, and you're listening to Aim for the Head podcast with Diana and Steve. And don't forget to always aim for the head, because body shots, they really just don't work.
Hey there, everybody. We are back. We're going to go ahead and jump right into our listener feedback we received. Then we're going to chat a little bit about what's coming up on the podcast, etc., etc. So first up in the feedback realm, we got some feedback that we're pretty sure that this is a person and not not a bot, but we're not sure. But since we live by if you give us feedback on the show, then we will include it on the podcast. So,
and we don't want Skynet to come and kill us.
Correct. Skynet, Starlink, whatever. So I'm unsure of the pronunciation. The picture was female presenting, and the name is spelled P-O-L-E, so I'm gonna say Pole. But it's spelled.
I would just say pole, but whatever. It's all good.
We're not sure. But anyway, in response to my picture of Lucy and Hank being all uncomfortable at the little assembly lines scene there, we got this feedback from Pole/Pole, who may or may not be a person. And they said, this scene was wild. Laughing and crying emoji. The tension, the awkwardness, perfect Fallout energy. Can't wait to hear your breakdown in the next episode. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for your feedback.
Awesome. I love it. I think
it was an awkward and perfect Fallout energy episode, and I'm excited that you can't wait to hear our breakdown. Yeah, that's what I know. So thanks for leaving us some feedback there, Pole.
That's awesome.
And yeah. So
all right.
Thanks again.
Cool. All right, awesome. We love it when new people write in,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they're people.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so moving on, we did get a piece of feedback from our pal Erica Price. Hello, Erica.
Erica is human.
Yes. We're fairly sure of that. And I don't know, was this an email or was this via the Facebook or what?
Oh, it was via the Facebook. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I did not include. My bad.
All right. Well, so she sent that in anyway. And I mean, Dee, I really think you need to like rethink this episode wasn't very funny, because Erica starts out by saying these nuke presenters casually going over megaton blast differences while snarfing down lunch is so hilarious. Hello, Diana. Hello.
Whatever.
Okay. She goes, too many 5 megaton blasts will be too busy. I guess. So is the Vault 33 experiment the running out of water due to the faulty water chip? Maybe. You never know. My personal thought is that was Barb's like parting way to kind of, stick it to Hank. Was that she found out that Hank was going there, because I really think that the experiment thing in Vault 33, 32, and 31 was the whole buds thing. I think that was what it involved, was they thaw out somebody from the before time periodically to become the overseer for the other 2 vaults. And so the water chip thing, my guess would be that that was Barb being like, oh, Hank's going there? Well, I think we're going to send one of those bad chips to that one. So anyway, we'll see. We'll have to figure out what's going to, hopefully they'll tell us, but we'll have to see what happens. She goes on to say, Coop is in a really bad spot here. And I think she means when he was stuck on a pole. Yeah. Dog meat being zero help is pretty par for the course. Hank, what are you up to with all those mind control units? That's a good question. Like we said, is he building his clone army to turn on the Jedi at the opportune moment? We don't know. Then she goes, changing the aspect ratio here during the Uranium Fever song was a cool effect. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That song and dance number. They do kind of ratchet the screen to like a more like television aspect ratio. And yeah, I just thought that was really fun. And I totally agree with you, Erica. That was really cool. Then she goes, Betty didn't come to play. And that's true, because Betty and like the security guys like crashed the party and tell everyone that the group has been dissolved. And then she goes on to say, Coop's rescuer is called a super mutant by my subtitles. Yes, that is correct. That's what it is called, a super mutant. And she goes, I'm loving all the new characters this season. I haven't checked the cast yet, but he's giving Ron Perlman. And I'm talking about the super mutant. And yes, he is, for a very important reason. Then she goes, wow, Barb, you're awful. Then she goes, no way, it's Wilzig. I know, right? As soon as he opened his mouth, as soon as the first word came out, you're like, holy crap, it's Wilzig.
Oh, yeah.
How did he manage to last 200 years like Moldaver? That is a really good question. How did all these people, find the pods to like be frozen? It's going to be real interesting to when they reveal that stuff. I sure hope they do. Then she goes, well, Lucy is indeed in a pickle here with her dad. Yeah, I agree. Because he's being way too nice and cooperative, and you know that can't last.
Right.
Then she goes, Maximus, Thaddeus, and Cooper together. That's true. I can't wait to see what they get into next week. I was right. It is Ron Perlman.
It is.
That's so
amazing.
Cool. Wonderful feedback. Thank you so much, Erica. It's always fun to read your thoughts, and you always have some really good ones. So thanks for sending them in.
Agreed. Thanks again, Erica, for sending in your feedback. Next up on the podcast, we will be discussing episode 7. Title of the episode is The Handoff. Couple of things that could be, talking about.
Absolutely.
The cold fusion. In both instances, because we've got Maximus has the cold fusion in the current times, and Coop and Barb have that cold fusion in the before times.
Yes, that's very true. So, and we also have Lucy with Hank. Yep,
that's a handoff that could be happening.
Could be.
So many things. So many things. So a couple of notes about the coming final 2. I can't believe we're at the final 2 episodes. Final 2 episodes of the season. There was a press release that was sent out just before we started podcasting, actually, and I'm glad I was able to include it. But in case you guys didn't see it, they have announced that they're going to be releasing the final 2 episodes a little bit earlier than they would have scheduled. The episodes have typically been releasing on Wednesdays, but what they're going to do is drop it on Tuesday night. So depending on your time zone, they listed it as 6 p.m. Pacific time. So that's,
8 o'clock our
7
time.
Mountain, 8 Central Time for us, and then 9 for Eastern.
Yep.
So episode 7, we're recording this on Monday. So
but what would it be in Zulu time?
I'm not telling you. Episode 7 is set to drop for us tomorrow. And they're going to do the exact same thing for episode 8 for next week. Instead of releasing it on Wednesday, it's going to release sort of, I guess, after dinner. So in the early evening of Tuesday instead of on Wednesday. So you get the episodes a little bit sooner, and we're excited for that because you'll have a little bit longer to send us feedback. And isn't that exactly what you're looking for in this world? Is more time to send us feedback. Let's be honest.
That's what I'm looking for.
I know, right? I'm gonna bother you guys with a post every day saying, "Where's your feedback, people? Send it in." I'm talking to you. So that's coming up on the podcast. We're excited about, we can't believe we're almost at the end of the season already. And I was going to talk about it at the beginning, but I can't recall. Have they been already extended for a season 3 yet? I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't remember if they were or not. No.
I'll have to look it up. I will have to look it up.
Oh, actually, no. You know what? I take that back. Yes, they are. They were picked up for season 3. Because a guy at work he misread it and said, "Oh wow, season 3 of Fallout is dropping in May of this year," and I'm like, that can't be right. So then I looked it up, and they're going to start shooting season 3 in May of this year. So the critics, the reviewer people have said, based on the post and the special effects and stuff, the soonest we could see it maybe the end of this year, but most likely 2027.
Yeah, I just Googled it really quick just to get a little bit of copy around it, and I guess the quote from one of the executive producers says that they're aiming to avoid the long gaps, which is, people complain about that, but when you're getting shows that are produced to this high quality with these, the need for computer generated effects and all these other special effects happening, it's difficult. Like, each week is a movie, is what you have to really look at it as. And I think people are, and I understand, like, people were irritated it took so long to get the season of Stranger Things, but it's like, as soon as you have an ensemble cast, you have to work around people's schedules. And like I said, filming these episodes each week is like filming a full movie because of the amount of extra stuff that's involved with special effects and locations and things like that. So the fact that they're trying to make it as quick as possible is really great. I appreciate that because, the fan in me will want to see a season 3 as soon as we're finished with episodes 7 and 8. But I also love the quality. So if we get higher quality episodes and I gotta wait a little longer, I am okay with that. It's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine, people. You just need to learn how to be without your shows for just a little bit longer. I get it.
Yeah, but we have so many shows to cover this year after this one that it's going to be like, before you know it, there'll be a new season of Fallout.
Absolutely. So there's that. So some sort of side news. I know I had made a mention a couple weeks back about how Amy Madigan had been winning some Critic Choice Awards, sort of end of year awards for acting, and she'd been getting a lot of nominations for supporting actress for her work, obviously, in Weapons, and we were so happy for her because it's very rare for actors from anything other than standard dramas to be nominated. It's very, the Golden Globes has a comedy and musical section, but other than that, you don't see a lot of genre movies. And I'm saying all of it, not just horror, but horror, sci-fi, and things like that. And so we found out late last week when the nominations came out that Amy Madigan has been nominated for an Oscar for her role in Weapons, which is just amazing. And I think it's great. It gives more exposure to, Weapons was a really, it was like pop culture wise was a very popular movie.
Oh yeah.
But it just puts that movie in front of even more people that maybe wouldn't have had exposure to it, including Academy members. So the fact that Academy members, there's a new rule in place where in order to vote for at least the acting awards, I believe, they have to have watched the movie. So that puts Weapons in front of a whole swath of people that maybe just hadn't watched it yet. And isn't that fantastic? Yeah. In terms of like the, heading towards the Oscars, who's got the momentum, really feel like it's Tiana Taylor from One Battle After Another who is most likely going to win the award, because there's a lot of momentum for One Battle After Another right now. But it'd be great to see Amy Madigan win because she has won some of the other major awards leading into this, a couple of the big critics groups. And again, just getting this movie in front of a group of people that maybe otherwise would have never watched the movie is fantastic. I think it's really great.
Yeah. Well, this year's Oscars is definitely bucking the trend because the film with the most nominations was Sinners, which is a flat-out horror movie.
Oh God, yeah.
It's not a particularly good one, but it did get 60 nominations. So,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of people were very excited for Paul Thomas Anderson, saying, "Oh, this is the year he's going to finally win his Oscar." For One Battle After Another, and I'm just, as soon as Sinners came out, I just laughed. I'm like, watch Ryan Coogler steal like the best director, best picture. And I just, Paul Thomas Anderson, he can't win. I mean, he's been nominated a couple times previously, and the biggest one is There Will Be Blood, and it didn't win, and you're like, I mean, watch that movie. That movie is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it got beat out, and people are still like, huh?
Yeah.
So it would be ironic if everyone was saying, oh my God, this movie, because I don't know if you've seen One Battle yet or not, but
no, it's still sitting in the DVR waiting, but it's going to happen soon.
It's an amazing movie. It really is. And I think that Sean Penn's going to win for Best Supporting Actor. And I mean, Leo's nominated for Best Actor, and it's Best Director, Best Picture, all that stuff. I think it got like 13 nominations this year. So, but then, Sinners is just, again, I mean, I like Sinners the first time I saw it when it was called From Dusk Till Dawn more than when it was called Sinners. So, and I like Michael B. Jordan, and the dual roles and stuff. I think he's really good. I just think the story all it does is just rip off like 4 other movies. So, but that's my take. If you liked it, you liked it, and that's great. And that's the wonderful thing about art. But anyway, I really hope Amy Madigan wins. I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, many, many, many moons ago, probably about 40 moons ago, when a young Sigourney Weaver was nominated for an Oscar for Aliens.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it, because that was a science fiction movie, and a performance in a science fiction movie was nominated for an Academy Award. Are you kidding me? And unfortunately she didn't win, but it was still exciting when she got nominated. And so I think it would be really cool if Amy Madigan could get that award. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I agree. So it's nice to actually, the last few years I haven't really had any kind of any horse in the race for the Oscars. I just have missed a lot of movies, but I'm really going to work on seeing some of the more the ones that got most of the nominations and slide a few more in there. But it's just nice going into the nominations themselves that I had somebody to cheer for. And when I heard, because I watched my job starts really early in the morning, and I usually have something on in the background since I work from home to sort of keep my mind occupied. And I was like, Thursday morning, I was like, well, the Oscar nominations live from LA is going to be my thing I keep in the background while I'm typing. And so when they got to Amy Madigan, I was just so happy for her. So very, very, very happy for her. And happy for the show, for the movie, too. And
then it just means a chance we'll get to see Amy Madigan and Ed Harris at the on the red carpet. So there you go.
Absolutely. All right. So, I don't think we have anything else left to discuss.
I don't think so.
All right. Well, then that means we're going to wrap it up. So, folks, we look forward to chatting with you next week when we discuss episode 7. But until then, as always, I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
And don't forget to always aim for the head.
Because body shots, they just don't work.
To send us an email, write us at aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @AFTH Podcast. Pictures and video are always welcome at our Instagram account, Aim for the Head Podcast, all one word. But the best way to keep in touch with us is to just like our Facebook page to get all of our updates in your feed.
They got the meats. They do. Absolutely.
It's not just one kind of meat. It's multiple meats. It's many meats.
Many meats.
All the meats. Well, maybe not all the meats, but most of the meats.
Mostly.